The Place Inside with your host, Laurence Galian.
Hi again, this is Laurence Galian, joining you for The Place Inside. Tonight, we're going to talk about some very powerful things. Things that I have to get off my chest and talk to you about. Just a few minutes ago, I got out of the movie theater where I saw the battle for Los Angeles, or Battle of Los Angeles. And this is really making me angry. How many of you out there have heard about Project Blue Beam? Project Blue Beam is rumored to be a government project that will make use of holograms, satellites, the HARP facility, in order to project a fake simulated alien attack on the United States. And not just the United States either. They have all sorts of plans. The technology is in place. We already have the technology to do this. So it's just a matter of, do they want to do it, and when are they going to do it? They can make it appear as if Jesus Christ is returning on clouds of glory with their holographic projections into the sky and from the satellites. And they can do this in whatever country they want, to have that country's gods, goddesses appear in the sky. In Muslim countries, they can have Imam Mahdi appear. And they also have the ability to place thoughts into people's heads. So with a combination of sight and sound, shock and awe, what do you think the public is going to do? Especially if the government says, well, the aliens are telling us if we lay down all our arms. Or if the government says that we need to declare martial law, we need to completely remove all your civil rights. We're down to just a few civil rights we have left, and with something like this, the government will be able to completely remove any vestige, any simulation of any possible rights, sovereign rights that we have as United States citizens. And they can do this all over the world because, as we know, their goal is the New World Order. So, what can we do about this? Well, that's what troubles me. And tonight, what I want to do in this program is to tell you exactly what you can do about this. You're not helpless. First of all, how many of you who are listening have seen the movie or read the book, The Secret? Now, wait a second before you say anything or start thinking anything about your host here. A lot of people did not like The Secret because they thought, one, that it was encouraging or telling people to be materialistic, and it lacked a spiritual component. So in that sense, many people did not like it. And two, many people did not like it because they tried the creative visualization as described in the film. But they tried it for about 1 minute. And when it did not work, they said, oh, well, this is a bunch of shit. And the heck with The Secret. The Secret's a bunch of bunk. Well, if they had only taken the time to actually follow on a daily basis and for several minutes every day to do this visualization, they might have seen some results. I am here to tell you that I have tried this. The Secret is nothing new. In 1976, I was reading a book by a man named Ophiel. Some know him as Ophiel. Ophiel. He released a whole series of books on magic, metaphysics, esoterics, 30, 40 years ago. And one of the books is The Art and Practice of Creative Visualization. So now I was doing this back then in 76, and I was experiencing results. In fact, as many of you know, the results that I was experiencing were so amazing, and I was so convinced that there is something to this creative visualization that I wrote my own book on the subject, Beyond Duality, The Art of Transcendence, published by New Falcon, and you can still get it on Amazon.com. Okay, but this is not a pitch to sell my book. This is to give you advice as to how to deal with what the government is planning. It even has a name, Project Blue Beam. Project Blue Beam, folks. That's the name of it. Now, that might not be the actual government name, but we know that they have the technology, and we know what can happen if they do project these images, religious images, images of aliens. Now, you know the word spoiler. I am going to speak about the movie, The Attack of Los Angeles, and if you have yet to see it and you don't want to hear anything about it, turn this off and listen to it after you've seen the movie. Okay? Just a warning there for you. Okay, folks, the movie basically is saying one thing. Saying aliens are going to attack. It is also saying aliens are evil. There are no good, benevolent extraterrestrials out there. And most important of all, what the movie is saying is that our only hope is the U.S. Marines. You got that right, folks. You heard me right. The only hope against a full-scale alien war against the world is the U.S. Marines. Well, that fits in perfectly with Project Bluebeam. If suddenly we're seeing aliens in the sky, and very interestingly, my wife just tonight reminded me of Orson Welles' War of the Worlds. I wasn't alive at that time. I don't think I was. But we all have read about this, how a radio program had people frightened to death. Some people actually committing suicide because they thought from a radio program, which was the main means of communication at that time, that there was an attack by aliens from Mars, Martians invading planet Earth. So you can imagine if now, how many movies have we been seeing lately that are depicting aliens in a one-dimensional way, that there's no redeeming features about them, that they're just out to attack us, destroy our planet, kill human beings, and with this movie tonight and many other movies too, that the only hope is the good old U.S. Army or Marines in the case of the Battle of Los Angeles. So, what do? Well, I was just talking about creative visualization. We have the power to affect reality. Okay? Our minds and hearts, when working together, have the power to affect reality. This is not New Age hokum. This is scientific fact. When 9/11 happened, we have 2 satellites in geosynchronous orbit around the Earth. They're in stationary orbit. One at the North Pole, one at the South Pole, at all times. And they measure the magnetic field of the Earth. Well, what do you know happened during that time? During the time of the building's collapse, the World Trade Center collapse, there was a huge spike in the Earth's magnetic field. Now, who do you think was generating that huge spike? It was us. It was collective humanity in grief, in shock, in amazement that anything like this could happen. The pain, the suffering of so many people. There was a huge spike. And you can see this. It's online, absolute scientific fact, right at the time of the tower's collapse. We can affect reality. I'm not going to go into all the studies right now, but the fact is, if you start visualizing, and by that I mean 4 minutes a day, no more than that. When you wake up, go to your computer. Don't turn on your computer, just sit in your chair in front of the computer, and for 4 minutes visualize the government's equipment not working. Visualize the people of the earth getting back their sovereign rights as human beings, the rights that we all should be enjoying under the law. I believe in being a law-abiding citizen. I believe in UFOs. I have seen to craft. And that brings me to my next point. There are many people out there in the UFO movement who have seen craft, who have seen orbs, and who have seen extraterrestrials. And these people are living in incredible fear and in a sense of almost total abject impotency, that feeling that they cannot do anything, a feeling of hopelessness. Now, just this alone, can you imagine how this plays into what the New World Order wants? They want people out there feeling helpless. They want people out there feeling depressed and impotent. Well, I saved this second because I felt that perhaps if I put this first, you might just turn off my program. The point is this: I also believe in God. And there is no force stronger on earth or in the galaxy or in any dimension than God. God is the ultimate reality. You may have heard the phrase, "the buck stops here." Well, yes, exactly. The buck stops with God. Now, those who have followed my career, my articles, my books, know that I have my own personal spiritual and religious beliefs. My point tonight is not to sell you on any set of religious or spiritual beliefs, but it is to remind you that there is a God. And it breaks my heart, frankly, when I talk to these people who have seen UFOs, who have seen aliens, and don't know what to do. And when I bring up the subject of spirituality or prayer, they look at me like I'm the Martian. They feel that God is something that belongs in church or has to do with the Bible. It's a very strange way of thinking. But it doesn't seem to occur to them that the ultimate reality, the rock on which all of reality is based, cannot provide shelter from what these people are fearing as abductions, attacks, and so forth. So, my point number 2 is to turn to the ultimate reality by whatever name you choose to call this higher power. Turn to this higher power and ask this higher power for protection and for help. Now, it doesn't stop here. Those of you who have probed into this subject know that for millennia, human beings have learned to possess great powers. In Hinduism, they are called siddhis. These are great powers that human beings in the past possessed. It was quite a normal thing. It was not unusual at all. The powers to lift incredibly heavy stones, the powers to fly. Yes, people flew, and there were flying machines thousands of years ago. We know this. We know this. But the part about the spirituality you may not know, and it may be time for you to investigate this. Go on to Google and Google cities, SIDDHIS, or city powers, and you'll get an idea about the powers that the human being has. For the last several, well, at least 2,000 years, the church has been on a campaign, along with the government, to tell humanity that we are weak, that they are the only ones that have the power, and that we are not capable of doing anything. We must run to them for shelter, that they're the ones that have the soldiers that will protect us, that we run to the castle. All of us peasants can run to the castle, and the knights in shining armor will protect us. Well, I have news for you folks. You have powers that are unbelievable, but you have to tap into these powers. You have to explore these powers, and we're going to get into specific exercises as to how you can do so. But for right now, I want to make these two very important points: that the government is out to fool you, no big surprise, through a fake alien attack and through fake images of the return of Jesus. And second, that they want you to feel absolutely helpless. But I want you to know that you have the power through what is known as creative visualization to counter whatever the government may be throwing at you. And even more important than that, there is the ultimate reality, the ground of existence, the power of powers that you must turn to, because God can confound the schemes of any government, of any power. Believe that, know that. I am talking truth to you tonight in the place inside. We were talking about cities, and I want to give you some specific definitions so you realize that these are not strange powers that only a few people can develop. They are your right as human beings. Cities, it's a Sanskrit noun that can be translated as perfection, accomplishment, attainment, or success. The term is first attested in the Mahabharata. A city may be any unusual skill or faculty or capability. So don't let anyone tell you that cities are evil, that you shouldn't mess around with them, that they are dangerous, so forth and so on. They are your inheritance as human beings. Okay? I want to make that very clear. Cities are your inheritance as human beings. Just like you have the ability to speak, to hear, to touch, to to smell. These are parts of your senses, super senses. Rudolf Steiner calls them supersensible abilities. So to go on, cities, a spiritual power or psychic ability, ascended skills. A lot of people who work with the Kundalini develop the cities. So if you want to develop city power, you might want to look into Kundalini, okay? Kundalini yoga. It's a very, very difficult, powerful form of yoga. Going on, the supernatural or extraordinary attainments of tantric practice. So the tantrics also work with the city powers. Includes the mundane abilities of performing miracles like shape-shifting. Can you believe this? Invisibility, flying, clairaudience, clairvoyance, reading minds, and knowing past lives, as well as the super-mundane category of enlightenment itself. Now, if you're going to take on government disinformation, don't you think these abilities will help you? Just hearing about this, isn't this giving you a feeling of, yes, I can do something. No, I am not helpless. I am not helpless in the face of this gigantic government black op conspiracy going on. City, an ability that is activated in the superconscious field of the mind. City, powers of the mind not yet developed in the average man. City, magic power, extraordinary power that may be acquired by man and of course woman through spiritual development. Again, there's those words, spiritual development. Don't let anyone tell you that this is evil, that you shouldn't mess with this. You should have a teacher. If you cannot have a teacher, you must have discipline. But these abilities are your God-given rights as human beings. Again, city, perfection, quote unquote, one of the many supernatural powers possessed by Siddhas as a result of their practice, their sadhana. Included among the cities are the power of flight, invisibility, the power of attraction, and the power to realize one's every desire. City, miraculous, occult. Occult simply means hidden. Don't let anyone tell you anything different. Or quote-unquote supernatural powers that may come to a seeker along the way, either spontaneously or intentionally by following specific practices. City, seemingly supernatural, but in reality, innate and natural powers of awareness, reattained through meditational practices and awareness or sadhana. And that last quote comes from www.thenewyoga.org/glossary.htm. That's www.thenewyoga, that's THENEWYOGA.org/glossary.htm. Finally, city, in Indian religion, supernatural or magical powers acquired by meditation. There have been thousands and thousands of men and women who have possessed cities. In fact, the second most well-known Buddha The first is, of course, Gautama Buddha, but the second is Padmasambhava. Padmasambhava was the Buddha of Tibet, and he and his consort Yeshe Chogyal traveled to Tibet with their enormous supernatural powers, because Tibet was being assaulted by terrible negative forces, and I will bet my bottom dollar that these negative forces were supernatural forces. These forces were extraterrestrial forces. But Yeshe Chogyal and the Buddha Padmasambhava, also known as Guru Rinpoche, fought back and drove these negative powers away. There are also great men such as Georgy Ivanovich Gurdjieff, also known as Gurdjieff. There's Rudolf Steiner. Rudolf Steiner, the only man that Hitler really feared, because he knew Rudolf Steiner's great powers and abilities. And then there are all the Sufi masters that have existed for over 1,000 years, and the Khwajagan masters of Central Asia. I could go on and on and on. There's something known as the rainbow body. You may want to look this up. The rainbow body. This is a Tibetan Buddhist teaching. Now, so I hope I'm helping you to feel that the situation is far from hopeless or helpless. It is just the opposite. As I said before, for thousands of years the church and the governments of the world and the kings and the royalty have been doing their best to teach you that you are weak and you are nothing. It is just the opposite. You are the representative of God on earth. You are like a sheriff that is empowered to represent the divine on earth. Your power is almost infinite. Now, I'd like to mention two things here, very important. One is that I know everybody listening has thrilled to certain science fiction and fantasy books, so-called fantasy books, such as the series The Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and of course the films that were made from these books. Actually, The Lord of the Rings, that series was voted the #1 book, if you will, of the 20th century. And this was done by a huge group of literary, academic masters who reviewed all the literature, all the books of the 20th century, and they said Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings was the best book written in the 20th century. Now, I want you to think about your favorite characters in these books. Was life easy for them? That's kind of a stupid question. No. Life was anything but easy for them. Yes, they experienced incredible joys. They experienced incredible experiences that most average men and women do not experience. They experienced ecstasies. They experienced magic, wondrous things. However, they also experienced enormous privation. They also experienced pain, the loss of loved ones, the loss of their beloved towns and cities and castles and so forth. So what I'm talking about here is this four-letter word, work. We cannot be effective at all if we do not work. One of the very interesting and unfortunate things is that while the good person sits at home, the evil person has already run 10 miles. And that is a fact. While we may be sitting around talking about things, the evil people and extraterrestrials are out there working, conspiring, and planning and building. Okay? They are working. So it is time for you to work. It is time for you to look at Obi-Wan Kenobi. It is time for you to look at all the characters that you so greatly love in the science fiction series and the fantasy novel series and movies, and think about what were they doing. They were training, right? They were training. They were crossing vast distances. They were working. They were practicing. They were doing their meditations, right? Remember Luke Skywalker and him practicing blindfolded. That's just a small example of how much a student needs to practice. And it doesn't matter what age you are, if you are physically strong or weak, if you're handicapped or not. This does not matter, because we are talking about what Rudolf Steiner calls the super senses, super sensible abilities. Super sensible meaning that these are our God-given innate senses, but they are beyond what people usually or have been taught are our five senses. Well, we have many, many more than five senses. So you have to get out there and start working. I've given you, and I'm not going to stop, don't worry, I'm not leaving you here, but I've given you many things to explore. Tibetan Buddhism, Guru Rinpoche, Padmasambhava, Yeshe Chogal, the Rainbow Body, Gurdjieff or Gurdjieff, Rudolf Steiner. Okay? So get to work. And and don't forget Kundalini. Kundalini Yoga. Tantra. Now, also I want to take on one person by the name of Michael Tazarian. Michael Tazarian is responsible for opening up incredible vistas, an incredible amount of information to us, and for that I myself, and I'm sure many of you, will be eternally grateful to him, and we encourage him to continue his work. However, there is a glaring omission that Michael Tazarian makes, and I want to take him on this omission. The fact is that Michael Tazarian talks only about this evil group of extraterrestrials that were chased into our solar system by another group of extraterrestrials. And this evil group of extraterrestrials landed, well, after doing incredible damage through the solar system, blowing up planets, scarring Mars permanently and so forth, landing on Earth and becoming our warlords. I have no debate, no problem with that with Michael Tazarian, except for the fact that he stops there as far as talking about extraterrestrials. If this solar system was in fact the site of one of the greatest battles in the history of the galaxy, where one of the most evil extraterrestrial races had to be imprisoned on the planet Earth, and actually a force field put around the planet so that they could not escape, do you not think that other alien extraterrestrial civilizations and beings would not be interested in at least coming to explore this battlefield? Think for a moment. I can remember when I was young, my parents took me to see the Civil War battlefields. We took a vacation one summer, and my dad drove us through all the wonderful Gettysburg and all the wonderful, in the sense of amazing, the battlefields of the Civil War. Of course, we want to see these places. And of course, just out of curiosity alone, I am sure there are thousands of alien races that have come here to see the place where this great battle took place. Going further than that, I would like to say that if Tazarian is so clear about them being evil, then perforce there had and has to be good aliens. There is yin and yang in this world. Okay? So, if there were evil aliens, then there are good aliens. And so I believe, and it seems common sense to me, that there are aliens from all over the galaxy that are coming to the solar system, our solar system, and to planet Earth to make sure that these evil extraterrestrials have not escaped. Why? If, as Tazarian says, they are so dangerous. Remember this chase he talks about, how they were chased through the galaxy and through the solar system, finally ending up on planet Earth. If they were so evil, then of course there has to be good, beneficent alien beings, civilizations, people, alliances that will want to make sure this powerful evil race does not escape, and who will want to help us to make sure these evil aliens do not permanently harm us. So they are on our side. You start to do your work that I'm telling you about, and you can contact them. Remember, there are beneficent, that means good, alien civilizations that care very, very much for humanity. Okay? That believe in God, that believe in the right, and will fight for the right alongside of us. We are not alone, and you are not alone. You are powerful. Always remember that your power comes to you through the ultimate reality. Do not think yourself more powerful than the ultimate reality. Remember the qualities of the Jedi Knight. Humility is one of the most important qualities. Always be humble. Don't talk to people about what you're doing. And we will continue as we have been. I thank you for your letters. They really help me when you write to me. I appreciate them again. This is Laurence Galian at drmljg@earthlink.net. D as in David, R as in Robert, M as in Michael, L as in Lawrence, J as in Joseph, G as in Galian, at earthlink.net. I want to hear from you, and we will continue with The Place Inside very soon. And this ends this transmission. I will be in contact with you again soon.